Welcome back. If you have ever seen or read Cuban news any time in the past few decades, you probably know it goes something like this. The U.S. is acting like an arrogant empire, and the embargo is the cause of all of our problems. But after President Obama and Cuba's leader, Raul Castro, announced a thaw in relations, what's going to happen to the press in Cuba? Could we see a flourishing of press freedoms, or should we be skeptical? I've got the perfect people to ask. Hugo Cancio, a Cuban-American who is the editor-in-chief of On Cuba, a news magazine operating in Cuba and the U.S., and Ernesto Londoño. He's here in New York. He's a part of the New York Times editorial board, which has pushed aggressively for better relations with Cuba. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
What about internet access in Cuba? It's still prohibitively expensive for many people there. Is that going to change, and how fast could that change, you think?
I hope it does. This is a country of 1.2 million people, less than 2 million people with cell phones, and a small portion of the Cuban population with access to free internet. And this is sad, and I hope that changes in the coming months and in the coming years. I mean, the Cuban government has always blamed that of the lack of technology, the embargo, or the blockade, as they call it. I mean, I think it's a little bit of everything, and I think that the Cuban government needs to open up and provide internet access to the majority of the Cuban people. I mean,
access to the internet equals access to free information. It's pretty simple these days.
That is correct. That is correct. And that's what the majority of the Cuban people want.
Ernesto, what did you hear when you were in Havana about that?
People desperately want the internet, and it seems clear to me that the state has used internet access to control information fairly tightly. Somewhat recently, the government was able to get a cable from Venezuela that at the time they represented that this was going to drastically expand internet access on the island. However, individual people who have internet at home tend to be people with connections to the government, tend to be people with government jobs, people that the government trusts. An independent journalist, for instance, Joanny Sanchez, who launched a pretty impressive digital news service earlier this year, has had absolutely no luck in getting her or her staff internet connections at home. It's something that is simply not available. Their only mechanism of getting online is going to hotels and paying fees that for ordinary Cubans are prohibitive. Going forward, the government has now signaled in a recent editorial that they published in the Communist Party paper, Granma, they've signaled that they want to expand internet access, and if they keep their word, I think that could have a transformational effect. I think the more information that flows freely, the more Cubans will start debating and challenging the system, and I think that would have a very healthy impact.
And of course, if or when access is more widely available, it can't be filtered, it can't be censored like China and other countries. It has to be truly free. Hugo, Ernesto, thanks both for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.